Welcome to the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each episode, I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. The Jedburgh podcast is founded in the lineage of the special operations Jedburgh teams of the past and is produced in partnership with Talent War Group, a management consulting and executive search firm focused on helping you optimize the people side of your business. We're sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving, making a difference in someone's life. Visit the Jedburgh Podcast, Talent War Group, and Jersey Mike Subs on the web and on all social media. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation.
You have to insanely and obsessively believe that the goal will come true. And that's what you have to do, because no one else is going to believe it for you. You got to see it for yourself. Some people are going to want to support you because they want you to do good. Some people aren't going to want to support you, but you got to be your biggest cheerleader. That's the only way you're going to make it happen.
What matters more? Where we start? Where we finish? Or how fast we drive the course we set for ourselves? My guest this episode is Jesse Iwuji. Today, he's a NASCAR driver, an entrepreneur, an actor, and an inspiration to all those who have a dream. Jesse's far from the finish line, but he's also miles from his starting grid. His parents immigrated from Nigeria. He grew up in Texas, but he wasn't the most athletic. He didn't come from a military family, and he certainly never drove a race car. But he did understand that hard work and focus will close any gap on the open track of life. Jesse pushed himself on the football field and in school to earn a slot at the U.S. Naval Academy. He played free safety for the midshipmen, and he commissioned as a surface warfare officer. Jesse spent 4 years on ships and deployed 2 times. It was in his downtime that he found his next challenge, becoming a professional race car driver. Jesse and I talk about his start, his journey so far, and his recent partnership with NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith to launch his own NASCAR team, Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. Jesse talks about overcoming fear at over 200 miles an hour and how wrecking in 6 out of his first 7 races taught him valuable lessons in bounce back and mental toughness. This season, he's finishing in the top of the pack and inching closer to his first podium. Check out my conversation with Jesse on your favorite podcast platforms. Watch the full video version of our conversation on YouTube. Subscribe to us and follow at Jedburgh Podcast on all social media. Check out our website, jedburghpodcast.com. Learn more about Jesse at jesseiwuji.com and on social media at Jesse_Iwuji. NASCAR has a few months to go, so don't miss him in action in the number 34 car each week in the XFINITY series. Jesse, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast.
Thank you for having me on the show.
We talk about visionaries, drivers of change, those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge so much on this podcast. We talk about leaders who are impacting their industries, setting the example through their successes, through their failures, and creating change. You are the current only actively serving military member in NASCAR. You're a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy where you played free safety. You're so active in entrepreneurism. You started Jesse Iwuji Motorsports alongside the legendary Emmitt Smith. On the track, you're a driver in the XFINITY series. You're one of 2 African Americans in NASCAR right now. You're an inspiration to all of those who ever thought that they couldn't do it. I appreciate you spending some time with me. I know you got a lot going on. It's the middle of the season, so there's no time to waste. But I want to get right into it, and I want to start with your background. You said people have big goals and big dreams, but are often too scared to go after them. You've attributed much of people's hesitation to pursue their dreams to the belief that their starting point is too far away from their goals, that they can't close that gap, they can't get there, so they just don't do it. Your parents immigrated to the U.S. from Nigeria. You grew up in Texas where you played football. You didn't come from a military family. You never sat in a race car. You had to work to be the athlete that you became. Why is this starting point so important to where you've come from?
Yeah, starting is everything, right? There's a lot of people out there who they have big goals, they have big dreams, they want to go somewhere, they want to do something, they see themselves accomplishing something, but they don't take that first step and they don't start. Right. And you have to start. You have to put in that action. Like, that's all part of it. Like, that's a difference between desire and ambition. Desire is just dreaming it up the whole day, every single day. Ambition is actually coupling action with that desire and trying to execute that on a daily basis. And that's what's going to take you from wherever you're starting to wherever you're going. And, you know, I equate life and I equate this journey towards whatever your goals are in life. I equate it to a card game, right? Like, we're all dealt a certain hand, right? And whatever that hand is, you might be dealt a really good hand. I might be dealt a very bad hand, but there's nowhere in that rule book for any card game that says if you're dealt a bad hand, you automatically lose. No, it just means it's going to be ridiculously hard to get to the goal to win, but you can still do it. You can be dealt a bad hand and maneuver your way through and actually still win the game. It's all possible. And then let's say you are dealt a bad hand and you start going through it, and all of a sudden you still lose. Well, guess what? Take a drink of water, sit back down, and play again. Right? You got time. Keep playing. Keep trying. Like, keep going after it. Just because you lost the first hand, just because the hand you were dealt sucks, does not mean you weren't meant to go win the game. You can go win it no matter how many times you got to play it. And that's how I look at it. No matter where you're starting from, like, don't be scared to start. You have to go after it every single day, whatever your goal is. If you have that vision, that means the deal is already done in the future. So who are you to not go after it? Like, you're meant to go after it. You're meant to go achieve it. There will be ripples along the way. There will be walls. There will be blocks. There will be pitfalls. There will be snakes. There will be traps. There will be all these things that happen. People stabbing you in the back. People stabbing you from the front. You name it. You're going to take on fire the entire time. But it's all part. You're still meant to get to the end. If you can clearly see it, it's like this natural vision that you're seeing every single day. You accomplishing something, achieving something, whatever it is. That means the deal is done in the future. You have to go after it with all your might, and you'll get there. And when you are starting, don't get stuck in the analysis paralysis stage where you paralyze yourself because you're analyzing so much. You take 10 years to analyze your goals and dreams, and guess what? The opportunity of a lifetime is now gone. You've now not taken the opportunity of a lifetime within the lifetime of that opportunity. So you got to understand that sometimes, yeah, it does take a little bit of analysis at first, does take a little bit of planning at first to kind of get your bearings or whatever, but then you just got to go. If you got the parachute, you got the backpack, jump out the freaking plane, pack it on your way down, and then put it on and then flip it, because you now have a timeline once you jump out of that plane. You're not sitting on that comfy plane anymore. You got to pack that parachute right. You got to get it right. You got to get everything right so that on your way down, you're not going to go splat on the ground. And that ground's going to come up pretty quick. And that's what's going to force you to get that parachute packed right. So that's kind of how I approach different things.
I think you're spot on. I mean, and one of the things you brought up, parachuting, and I want to get into your career in the Navy here in a second and attending the Naval Academy. But I think when you're sitting in that airplane and you are strapped up, nothing teaches you to seize the moment when the opportunity presents itself, which you were just talking about here. Sometimes you just got to go, and people talk all the time. Well, the time's not right. The time's not right. I got to wait for everything to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect.
Gonna be right.
You got to get in. When that ramp opens and the jump master says go, you go. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta go, and no matter what's gonna happen after that, you gotta go. So you can't wait. It's not on your timeline anymore. It forces you out there, but it forces you to get to go into the mission and start executing, right? And if everybody had it their way, they'd probably sit on the plane the whole ride and never jump out. But you gotta go.
I've never been so scared as I was the first many times.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Naval Academy. You played linebacker in high school. You were recruited by the Naval Academy. You played free safety there. And then you became a surface warfare officer in San Diego, 4 years on ships, 2 deployments. I think after we've watched Top Gun come out again and we see all the movies, but see, we can talk about Navy SEALs here because I was a Green Beret and you weren't a SEAL, so I'm going to rag on them for a minute. But everybody thinks that if you go in the Navy, you're either a fighter pilot or a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And the reality is that most people serve like you did, and they're a surface warfare officer, which to me for a very long time, I didn't know what that meant, because I'm like, the Navy isn't on the surface, but it actually means on the surface of the water.
Exactly.
What did you learn about leading teams and from being on a ship?
Yeah,
because it is so unique.
No, when you're on the ship, I mean, you're in a really tight community, right? And when you're out there in the water, with people for people who are in the Navy, you got to think about it. We don't have a fire department that we can just call if something happens. We don't have the local law enforcement you can just call if something happens. Like, whatever happens on the ship happens on the ship, and you and your group on the ship are the only people out there who can save you and the group, right? We are our own basically firefighting squad. We plug holes, we do whatever. We are our own mechanics, we are our own electricians, we are our own at whatever you could, cooks, barbers, you name it. I mean, you got to be able to do it all on the ship. So when you're leading this very versatile group of people, you got to understand your people. I think that's what it takes to be a really good leader. It's not coming into it with some mentality that, here's my leadership style. I'm going to just go after it and people are just going to listen to me or whatever. You got to understand people. You always got to come at something seeking to understand so that you can understand where they're coming from and you can understand their different personalities, because we live in a world where there's a million different personalities that come into our military, right? And yeah, we do what we can to make everybody assimilate and become one. But at the end of the day, everyone's still a human being, right? So the more you can understand the person you're dealing with, the more you can be an effective leader for them. Your one leadership style doesn't just lead everybody. It's very difficult to make that work. But when you understand people, you understand, okay, this is what makes this person tick. This is what these are the incentives that they like. This is what makes them want to go achieve this and that, whatever it is. And once you understand that with the people, you can then get them to move in a certain direction so that you can all be cohesive and execute on the mission and achieve whatever the goals are.
Especially when you operate on small teams. I mean, people always, we talk about hierarchies all the time in organizational design, and people think, you instill these hierarchies so that someone at the top can look at everyone else and say, those are my men. I'm ready to tell my men what to do. But like you said, in so many ways, effective leaders have to know when to lead and when to get involved, and also sometimes when to get out of the way and be a part of the team. And too often we forget that, especially when you get out of the military.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, some of it is just getting out of the way. Like, they know what they're doing. You've trained them. If you've done everything you're supposed to do to train them properly, equip them properly, give them all the tools, and help their capabilities to be the best that their capabilities can be. Get out of their way and let them go do their thing. Empower them to go out and do their thing. It's huge when you're a leader.
I want to ask you about the transition into race car driving, because I think everybody wants to be a race car driver at some point in their life. My son, when I was getting prepared to come and speak with you tonight, I was watching my son. He's 2.5, and he's playing with race cars in the other room. And I was looking at him just thinking, man, like, that's the dream of so many little kids. But you sat there and you have this quote that I want to read, and it's, I was just sitting in my room and I told myself, I like cars, I like racing. I'm the type of person who I don't like to sit on the sideline. Jesse, you're going to become a professional race car driver. And I wrote that on my whiteboard. I put that on my wall, and literally that's where my journey began. I think that's incredibly powerful, because I remember sitting in my room and planning a vacation in Norway when I was deployed, and you were getting ready to become a race car driver. Why'd you want to race cars?
I've always liked cars and racing since I was a little kid. I used to watch the cartoon Speed Racer. I used to watch the show Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff.
Oh, the best
show.
Yeah,
it was a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to watch that, and it was cool. And I'd watch a little bit of NASCAR, Formula One and stuff when I was a kid. Watched it all, liked it a lot, but never really thought I was going to get into it. And then once I graduated from the Naval Academy, I needed like that next thing to do. I needed that next exciting competitive sport to be a part of, and football was over for me, so I wanted to explore more on my interest in cars. So I was like, hey, I'm an officer, I'm making a little bit of money, I can go buy a fancy car. So bought a Challenger SRT8, bought a Corvette Z06. I would take these cars to tracks, drag strips, road courses, you name it. I'd go to all these tracks and do these open track days, and after a few years of doing that, one day I decided, you know what, I want to take this to the highest level. Like, I played college football at the highest level of college football, Division 1A college football. That's the highest level you can be at. I played there. I was in games with 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. I wasn't even in the game against Ohio State, 107,000 people in the stands. So I wanted that feeling again. And I was like, where was I going to get that feeling again? I could get it being a professional race car driver. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get that feeling again. So I decided that I wanted to go after it. I had to figure out the resources, what it took to get into racing, what resources were necessary, funding, money, experience, time, equipment, whatever you name it. I had to figure that stuff out. I had to figure out, the timing on it, like how to do it, right? I was still active duty in the military. I had to put all these different parts and pieces together, but through a lot of grind, through a lot of just intentional thought, a lot of intentional planning, a lot of intentional networking, and a lot of intentional putting energy forward and stepping forward and taking action every single day and not being scared to do it. I started meeting people. That it's once you start when you start putting this crazy focus energy towards something, it's crazy how the universe will start putting it back into you. they'll start opening up doors. Pathways will start opening up that were always there, but now you finally see it. And that's what I started doing. And that's what allowed me to get on that path to get into racing. I met a guy at a car show who was racing late model stock cars. He introduced me to a late model stock car team. I started racing like short track racing in 2015. I had to find the money to do that. I was finding a little bit of sponsorship. I was doing crowdfunding campaigns. I started my own small business to make extra money. I was doing everything I could just to make extra money to race. And as I started working my way up the ranks, my business that I started doing better. That helped me, to pay for some of the racing. I found more sponsorship that helped me. I found an agent eventually who helped me find even more sponsorship so we can go to the higher levels of NASCAR. And we just kept on grinding, and that's what it took to get there. But really, it's you can't even ask your question on how long it's going to take or how many this you got to do, how many that you got to get, whatever. It's just whatever it takes, right? If someone asks you how many reps you got to do to get stronger, how many ever it takes. If someone asks you how much time it takes, however long it takes, like there's just no limit. You do whatever is necessary to get there.
Yeah, we in the last episode we interviewed Scott Dickers, who's the founder of The Onion. And he said you have to be obsessed.
Yeah.
And he said most people, they think when you say that someone's obsessed, it's a bad thing.
No.
He said, but when you're building a brand, when you're following your dream, when you're trying to achieve something that you've always dreamed and set out to do, you have to be relentlessly obsessed. And if you remember our time in the military, what do we talk about? Relentless pursuit.
Yeah.
We talked about the relentless pursuit of global terrorism, and we did that for 20 years, and we'll do it for beyond. But that's how you achieve what you set out to do.
That's very true. I always tell people you have to insanely and obsessively believe that the goal will come true. And that's what you have to do, because no one else is going to believe it for you. You got to see it for yourself. Like, no one's going to, some people are going to want to support you because they want you to do good. Some people aren't going to want to support you, but you got to be your biggest cheerleader. That's the only way you're going to make it happen.
Well, you rose through the NASCAR ranks. You spent time in K&N, the Camping World Truck Series. Now you're full-time in the number 34 Chevrolet Camaro. You founded Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. Your business partner's Emmitt Smith. You and he both said that the goal of this venture is to create an opportunity generating system for those who never thought they could be in the sport or achieve their dreams. Why is this partnership and this initiative so important in NASCAR right now?
It's really big. NASCAR has been a place that was, in a way, somewhat like one-dimensional for a very long time, right? It was not super diverse for a very long time. It needed some change. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of great changes that have been made. It's become more diverse. And but we knew with my journey and with where we wanted to go with NASCAR and everything, we needed to create our own system, right? We needed to start our own system within the system, right? In order for you to really affect positive change, you have to be able to have ownership. And with that ownership, we were able to basically create an opportunity generating system, right? By having a team, we can create opportunities from this team, from transitioning service members who are looking for a place to work, from being able to leverage what we got with the team to go do positive things out there in the community for kids, whether it's kids who are at risk, who might be in bad environments, who need a positive way to get out of it, or if it's even kids who are in hospitals who are dealing with life-threatening illnesses, being able to figure out ways to leverage our team to help those folks. Also too, with everything we do in racing, there's a lot of science and technology and math and engineering that goes along with it. So there's ways we can leverage the team on STEM aspects with different STEM initiatives. So all these different things on even just the diversity side and everything. These are all ways we can continue to create opportunities, and the only way to do it is when you have ownership. If we didn't own a team and I was just racing for other people's team, how can I tell them what to do? I don't own the team, right? I can't walk into McDonald's and tell the CEO of McDonald's, hey, this is how you need to go spend your money and do this and that. I can't do that. I don't own it, right? So the only way to truly affect positive change and truly create something that's worthwhile is by you being able to own it, and that's what we did.
I watched an interview with you and Emmitt Smith where he talked about you, he talked about the partnership. This is a guy who's been in a number of different business ventures and had a lot of partners and can choose a lot of people to work with. Two questions for you. One, what did he see in you? And two, what do you take away from him on a daily basis about building a business and leadership?
Yeah, I guess what he saw in me was just really maybe a younger him, someone who was driven.
And you wore 22.
Yeah, I did. When I was in seventh grade, I wore 22. Yeah, but someone who was just driven to do all the right things, had a good head on his shoulders. With everything I was doing, like I always did everything with integrity. I did the best I could to be the best person I could, but also I was a go-getter who was able to make things happen. Right? There's a lot of people out there who will talk a lot, say a lot, but never really truly do a lot. It's one thing you can tell the people who are doers, people who can actually go out and set their mind on something and actually accomplish it over and over. And those are the people you want to bet on. Those are the people you want to align with. You don't have to look at, you don't have to look at their current stats or this and that. You just got to look at, okay, is this person the type of person who has a vision, a goal, puts action towards it, and then eventually accomplishes it. Like if you can align yourself with those kind of people, those are the kind of people who will take you and everything else that y'all got going on to the next level. And I think that's what he saw in me. For him, what I saw in him was, somebody who's been around, who's achieved some of the highest feats you can achieve in sports. I mean, 3 Super Bowl wins. Played football at one of the best schools in the country, in Florida. He, the leading rusher in the NFL, has that record, still has that record. Like 20 years later, no one's beaten it. No one's going to beat it anytime soon. So just everything he's been able to achieve. And then in the business world outside of after football, he was able to achieve a lot as well. He's into a lot of real estate investing and some other things. So, you can always learn from those kind of people who are just, once again, proving over and over that they can set their mind to something, put action towards it, execute, and achieve. And that's what he's done pretty much his whole life. And that's why we're a really good mix.
I'm going to ask you about fear, and I'm going to ask you about pressure. You've succeeded in football and the Navy, entrepreneurism, and now every week you're getting out there and you're racing cars at 180 plus 200 miles an hour around a track. A lot of this in my mind comes down to character. In this podcast, we talk a lot about the 9 characteristics of performance that are used by Special Operations Command to recruit and assess talent: drive, resiliency, adaptability, humility, integrity, curiosity, team ability, effective intelligence, and emotional strength. You've spoken a lot about fear. You've spoken a lot about the need to overcome fear and what you go through. You wrecked 6 out of your first 7 races. And there's an incredible amount of pressure in the moment writ large, but then also when you're behind the wheel. Can you talk about confronting fear, facing it? What goes through your mind, and how do you push through it?
Yeah, that fear side is always really difficult. Yeah, my first year of racing back in 2015, I was involved in like 6 different wrecks, in those first set of races. And, some were my fault. Some were things I just got, turned around by somebody else. All different kind of things happen. But at the end of the day, I was still involved in those wrecks. And it was tough because you look at yourself, you're a beginner in the sport, you're trying to learn, and you're involved in these wrecks, and you think, is this really for me? But you have to look at that when you're going through any kind of journey in life, you're going through a very dark tunnel through that journey. And in that dark tunnel, there'll be times where you trip, there's times where you fall. But even in the darkest point of the night, the sun will still rise. So life is a cycle. Your journey is a cycle. Just because it's going down doesn't mean it's not coming back up. It's just a cycle. It's going to come back up. When? Nothing's guaranteed on when that come up is, but setbacks are setups for phenomenal comebacks. So every time I had a setback, once I got over the initial sadness, I would smile and be like, you know what? Hey, this is a setup for a phenomenal comeback. Like the phenomenal comeback's coming. Doesn't mean it's coming next week. It might come 2 weeks from now. It might come a year from now. It might come a month from now. But the setbacks are setups for phenomenal comebacks as long as you're willing to continue to put action, be creative, and find new ways to continue to move forward every single day. That's what's going to allow you to bounce back and be even better. And eventually you'll be laughing at the times when you're wrecking.
What's next for you?
For me, what's next is continue to build a team, right? So right now we have a 1-car XFINITY Series team in NASCAR. We plan on eventually expanding that out to a 2-car team, maybe even more. Who knows? We eventually want to have a Cup Series team in NASCAR and be at the highest level in NASCAR. I want to be racing in the Cup Series. I have goals to eventually be racing super competitively in all the series. I want to be able to go race and get wins in, and then eventually race for championships and so on, and eventually win a championship. That's the goals. That's what I want to do. It takes time, it takes effort. Mistakes get made along the way, but I'm just going to continue to work on me and continue to make me better, and then continue to work on the team to make the team better so that we can have the necessary resources, people, equipment, and things needed so that we can make it to the levels that we want to make it to and be able to achieve these dreams. That's my goals on the NASCAR side of things. On the other business stuff that I got going on, I want to grow my other businesses. I'm in real estate investing. I put on drag racing events. I'm in esports. I have a trucking company. I want to continue to grow those businesses, help them reach their max potentials, and then stay at their max potentials as long as possible. Want to be able to be a great investor and turn different investments into bigger things, and eventually want to do some Hollywood work too as well. I'm a really big Marvel cinematic universe guy, so would love to be in some big Marvel film or Fast and Furious, or maybe in some DC films or Transformers. I don't know, something.
And sleep 2 hours a night, you should be okay if you can achieve all that in the
I'll
day.
manage it.
Jesse, the Jedburghs in World War II had to do 3 things every day to set the foundations for success. You could call them habits, you can call them foundations, baseline. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, and they had to be able to communicate. If they did these 3 things with the utmost precision, they could focus their attention on other more complex, challenging tasks that came their way. What are the 3 things that you do every day to set the foundations for success in your world? I
would say the 3 things I do that are important to me. 1, you got to pray every single day, because that faith side of it is what's going to guide you through everything. It's stuff that's unseen. You're not going to be able to see what's going on and where the magic's happening, but it's happening, right? So you got to have faith. So I pray each day. I make sure that I going to my list of things to do, and I'm putting in action and energy every single day towards accomplishing things on that list so I can move forward. If I'm not putting energy towards moving forward, then what I'm doing is subconsciously putting energy on going backwards. So I make sure I'm doing that each day. And then also too, your health is your wealth. So I'm making sure that I'm staying physically fit on a daily basis. You can't do anything or achieve anything if you're lying, in a hospital bed with health conditions that are caused from not being a healthy person.
Pray and have faith. Take action and energy towards the forward-moving list. Stay fit, stay healthy.
You do that each day, you'd be surprised how far you start moving in life.
Yeah, it's just so true. We talked about the 9 characteristics of performance that are used by Special Operations Command to be an elite performer, to race on the NASCAR circuit, to play football at the Naval Academy, to be a surface warfare officer, to achieve what you have, and now to venture into entrepreneurism, which might even be the biggest test of everything that you've put yourself through. You have to display all 9 of these, never at one time, but in different variations depending on the situation that you're in. And you have certainly done that. You've talked about most of them here in their own way today. At the end of each of these conversations, I think about one that exemplifies you and the conversation that we have. And for you, I think about drive, because drive, I believe everything starts with drive. When you wake up in the morning, are you mentally and emotionally and physically prepared to move forward, take the next step? Go out there and reach for your goal. Be better today than you were yesterday. Be better tomorrow than I was today. And even though you're going to have to be resilient and adaptable and you're going to get knocked down, can you get back up and keep going? None of those other things matter if you don't have drive. And it's fitting for you because you do drive for a living and you drive fast. And I think it complements absolutely everything that you're doing out there. Jesse, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your perspective. I love what you're doing. We're following you. Myself and the whole Jedburgh podcast team is a fan of you, the 34 car, all your endeavors. And I look forward to talking to you again when you're on that podium or somewhere close to it, or whatever you do, we're going to be there to cover it.
Thank you so much. It was awesome being on the show, and hopefully some tips here can help some people achieve their goals and dreams. So hopefully people, take that step and take that action. No analysis paralysis, just jump out of the plane and just go.
You got no choice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.